Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Sarah Smith, and you're listening to Raw Intentions. God, we are so freaking back. So stoked for this week's episode to be back in my little interviewer chair. We're in a new studio, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, Denver Photo Collective, shout out. And yeah, stoked to be back on the mic listening to myself talk. It's truly the dream. But before we get into this week's episode, I will give my little elevator pitch just in case this is your first time listening and you want to get to know your host a little bit more. So like I said in the intro, my name is Sarah Smith, Sarah with an H, Smith with a Y. I am from Madison, Alabama, 30 years old and currently living in Breckenridge, Colorado in a little mountain house ski town. It's truly just like the cutest little snow globe. I went to Auburn University, studied rehab disability studies in Spanish, and I was going to do bilingual occupational therapy. And that was the plan until I was way too broke in college to afford all the Rumplemint and tequila shots that my heart desired. So I started making handmade jewelry. I made it for my friends. I sold it through my Instagram, and what slowly started as just a little side hustle turned into so much more than that. It is now my full-time job, my baby, my brand. It's called Raw and Rebellious. That's at raw_rebellious on Instagram. If you don't follow us, definitely give us a follow. Started with handmade jewelry, did that for like 6 years. And in the last 2-3 years, we have totally transformed. We do apparel, we do hats, prints, shoes, meetups, pop-ups, international trips. I do influencing, YouTube, and now this podcast. And with all the growth that's happened with my company, I think what I'm most proud of is the community. We've cultivated such a strong, beautiful, inclusive community. And it is so rewarding getting to meet people in real life and talk to them every day via DMs. And that's really why I started this podcast, was to create a lifeline between me and that community and also give other people a platform to share their stories. And it's really strengthened my friendships. It's created friendships, and I am just constantly learning, constantly inspired. And it's been so much fun. Almost 3 years now, and I'm still obsessed. It's also Raw Intentions Podcast on Instagram, by the way. So if you don't follow us, definitely change that immediately. This week, we've got my new friend, Steph Villavicencio. She is the founder of Tits, which is officially a nonprofit, round of applause, and is doing incredible things in the space of breast cancer awareness, advocacy, and advocating for early testing in women under 40, a very underserviced age group. She is a Florida native turned mountain girl who is still very obsessed with surfing. Do not worry. And she's just so inspiring. I am a woman that embarrassingly knows very little about breast cancer and about the early signs and detections and things to ask my doctor. And so it was a really powerful educational conversation, hearing her personal stories, hearing the lack of conversation within the space of breast cancer and surrounding grief, and why she felt the need to change that in her own way. So I will let Steph tell her story. It is such a good episode, y'all. I'm so excited for you to hear it. So thank you so much for listening. And without further ado, let's welcome Steph Villavicencio to Raw Intentions Podcast. Steph, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm so excited you're here. Yay. This is going to be so much fun.
Super fun.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And before we get started, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners, both of our listeners, because I'm sure you've got some Tits Deep folk tuning in.
My name is Stephanie Villavicencio, and I'm originally from South Florida. And I founded Tits Deep by total accident 4 years ago on February 21st. And I've been in Aspen since November 2012. I moved out right after undergrad. Well, actually, I had 1 semester left, and I changed all my classes to be remote so I could move because I got a job out at Buttermilk Mountain in Aspen.
Did you grow up coming out to Colorado or anything?
A little bit. I have family friends there.
Okay.
So they took me and my brothers out a few times. And right before I graduated, my family friend took me to lunch in Florida, and she said, "What do you think about moving to Aspen?" And it immediately brought me back to this really, which now I look at as a spiritual moment when I was 16 years old, had no connection to my spirituality then. And we were going through the S curves in Aspen, kind of around 8th Street.
Okay.
And my head was leaned against her car window. And I was admiring the Christmas lights and the fluffy, perfect snow on the pine trees. And I swear a voice outside of myself said something to me. And I just was like, okay, and shrugged my shoulders. And when this family friend, "What do you think about moving to Aspen?" when I was 22, I flashed back to that 16-year-old me when it said, one day you'll move to Aspen.
Are you
Literally,
serious?
yeah.
I have chills.
Like, I've never really had another time in my life where a voice external to my own said something to me. And I had no idea what it meant. And it makes so much sense now because in that moment, I've never been more sure of a decision. So I drove 3 hours back to Orlando from where I had lunch with that family friend.
And that's where you lived in Orlando?
Yeah.
Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from Miami, but I went to UCF.
Gotcha.
And so when I made that connection of that voice that said you'd move here one day, it just was like, yes. There was no thought about it. So I literally rushed home. I opened up my laptop. It was like a heavy 20-pound Dell.
Yeah. Oh, God. I had one of those too.
And I literally pulled out of one of my classes so that I could be remote. And I started couch surfing my last semester. And then me and 3 best friends drove cross country from Florida. I ended up in Aspen. And yeah, that was 12 years ago. And
holy shit.
It's really shaped a lot of my life. I don't think if I had that experience when I was 16, I would have moved because one of my biggest concerns when moving, and I voiced this to my best friend so much, was like, guys, I haven't gone without 2 weeks without surfing since I started 4 years ago. Like, I don't know if I could do this.
Wow.
And they just kept reminding me that the surf would always be there. And that's been a constant battle for me being landlocked. But I
was going to say, that's
if
hard.
I didn't have that experience when I was 16, I would have waved it off and chosen surfing over everything for sure.
Well, and I'm sure, I mean, in Colorado, there's different versions of surfing with skiing and snowboarding and all of the sports and hobbies that we have, because I kind of feel that way about skiing. I'm moving back to Denver, I think, in a year, and it's not even that far from Breckenridge, but I'm terrified because I'm like, I ski like every day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I don't know what you're going to do.
I know. I'm like, oh God, don't tell me that because I'm already freaking out enough. But I totally understand that because when you get in that flow state, when you're doing something and you're in nature and you are thinking about nothing other than what you're doing in that moment, it's like the most beautiful thing. And I think as an adult, it just comes back to that like inner child. And so that's probably a really scary thing to knowingly walk away from, especially to somewhere that's so different than Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, going from ocean to snow is a pretty big shift.
I only knew my family friend and she's not one to coddle. Like, she's kind of like, I'll get you kind of to where you're going, but you're on your own. And I had just turned 23, I think, my first week here. And yeah, I had a lot of figuring out to do. I didn't even have an iPhone yet. A lot of my friends did in 2012. And I was still kind of off grid. Like my apartment that first winter didn't have Wi-Fi.
No way.
I didn't have a smartphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I played way more guitar. I journaled more. I was like way more in touch. Yeah, it was a really wholesome experience. And looking back and finding my way. Like, I didn't even know what a windscreen snow scraper was. I looked at my new friends and was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. What is this?
Yeah. Like, I didn't know what to wear.
Yeah.
I barely knew how to snowboard. And now I've like really created something out of it.
Totally. Well, and you mentioned earlier your spirituality and at the time not having tapped into that yet. So would you say that's a pretty big part of your life now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
In
like,
what way?
So tuned in. I mean, just constant, like, little things. Like, when you reached out to me last week, and then 2 months prior, I literally was like, I don't know how to reach out to Round Rebellious, but they're really cool, and we kind of roll in the same circles as Tits Deep, but I'm not going to do it. And then you have Anna reaching out, who brought me up to you. And like, little things like that I think of, and I really connect the pieces.
The synchronicities, yeah. No, and the signs, like, from the universe, like, you learn that nothing is really a coincidence. And you can find meaning in seemingly small things. And if you choose to, I mean, I think that's to its core what mindfulness is. Like,
100%.
You choose to notice things and allow things that are in front of you instead of like being on your phone or like just letting things pass you by. It gives you like a whole new appreciation for just like the most mundane things, and you realize how connected everyone is.
And I guess the other piece to that, like, you know, being attuned and tapping into the spirituality is I wasn't really going to be in Denver this week at all.
Yeah.
But my wedding dress got finished early, and this was the soonest that I could come. No, it was the soonest that the seamstress could see me. And then you asked if I could do the 19th, and I was like, I will be in your podcast
You are kidding.
Or else we would be doing it
Well,
virtually.
because I was going to say something, because at first I thought you lived in Denver, but then when I was doing my stalking, I was like, I'm pretty sure she lives in Carbondale. So that's so funny that you just happened to be here, because I never come to Denver either. I just come for like the only reason I'm here today is because tomorrow my boyfriend gets in town and we're going to be in Denver for the weekend. So when I'm here, I try to just, record. And so the scheduling thing is a nightmare because my availability, I'm like, I hope it lines up with their availability and we'll just see if we can make it work. So we were meant to be here, which is so cool. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I've found a lot of spirituality in my like late 20s. I just turned 30, and also just being in the mountains has definitely made me more in touch with myself because it makes me way more still than being around stimulation. Like I've learned that I prefer that like quiet and the small town vibe, and like living in the mountains. That's definitely where I'm the happiest for sure.
Yeah. Small town.
Yeah. And Carbondale is so sick.
Yeah. I thrive. I don't do well in big cities, really.
Do you think you'll be in Carbondale like for the long haul?
No, this is something me and my husband really go back and forth. Like we don't know where our true home base is because we're such big surfers. He's from outside of Auckland.
Auckland?
So he's a Kiwi.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, so is that why you guys are going to New Zealand? Oh, sick.
Yeah, we have a little bit of an identity crisis.
Okay.
Carbondale is amazing, and we say all the time, if we weren't surfers, we would never leave. But we just have to surf, and being in a surf community is one of the most important things to us.
Okay.
But Tits Deep is more important, and that's why I've been here the last few years consecutively.
Because you've been building that.
Yeah.
So do you still have family in Florida? Are you guys still just like playing around with different ideas?
Yeah. We're still figuring it out.
Well, that's exciting though. And it's cool that you guys both share that love for surfing. How did you guys meet?
We met in Puerto Rico on a spontaneous surf trip.
No way.
About
Synchronicity.
6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like barely planned, super last minute. And I was going with some of my best girlfriends for their birthdays. And he ran into a friend that he hadn't seen in 3 years at a yacht marina. They both work in yachting. And that friend just said, hey, man, come to Puerto Rico. You'll like it. And that was on a Wednesday, and Rich flew out on Saturday.
No way.
Yeah. Whereas I booked my flight 6 weeks in advance, and I thought that was spontaneous.
Yeah.
Like, the way we booked it was also really random and like unplanned. We were out at a jazz night and having drinks, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, Julie, you booked your flight to Puerto Rico. Why don't you tell me? She's like, well, I just booked it earlier. And I looked at Ash, I'm like, should we just book our flights now too? And then I find out my now husband booked his 2 days in advance.
I love that.
Yeah.
How did he come to the States?
Through yachting.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
his boat was based in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, and does he do Tits Deep with you?
He helps.
Okay.
Yeah. I put him to
by
work.
being in a relationship, you are like the unofficial employee,
Yeah.
the unpaid help.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you just picked up your wedding dress
Yeah.
today. It's very exciting stuff. So you come to Aspen, and how is it like assimilating here and, finding friends and finding yourself? You're in your early 20s. I feel like that's a pretty, transformative time.
Very exploratory. Like you think you know yourself.
Totally.
And
you think
everything's figured out.
everything.
And now I look back 12 years and I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. No, totally.
Well, I grew a lot, I would have probably just been a surfer if I didn't move here. And now I am not only a snowboarder, but backcountry. So I've learned a lot about mountains and how to read them and conditions and wind patterns, all these things that I don't think I would have really tapped into.
Sure.
I've become a really, really diehard mountain biker. So then you're experiencing the mountains in a whole nother dimension, and just the backpacking, the hiking, all the things you do as well, being in the mountains. It's really shaped me. It's really helped me to understand what I'm capable of. I never knew that I could achieve certain things. I'm by no means an athlete, but every single year I achieve different athletic feats that the year before, 5 years ago, there was no way I thought I could actually do. Or if I did, I'd be like 8 hours slower, or just like whatever, like really struggling. And now I'm like, no way I did that.
Just
and then the people
surprising
that you
yourself.
meet, like I go to the grocery store, the mountain, wherever, and I just see so many people that I've met. And when you're in your own little world, I don't go out that much. You kind of forget that. But the moment I step out and start roaming around the valley, it just reminds me the network we've created. And when you throw Tits Deep in there, and the people I really wouldn't have met or had access to, that now all of a sudden know the organization and know me as an individual, it's just really special.
Yeah. Well, you're not only like rooting yourself in the community through all these activities and finding yourself and testing your strength and getting through that, but also creating this beautiful thing that affects so many people positively, and you're spreading awareness and you're raising money and doing it in a way that really like brings people together. I mean, I feel like community is at the forefront of so much of what you do.
It really is. It's the most important thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, what do you think your pillars are with everything that you do with Tits Deep, Chest High?
Honestly, it is community, and then it is lifestyle.
Okay.
Because Tits Deep has evolved, you know, from initially helping one best friend, not intentionally starting a nonprofit. It just happened naturally. Yeah. Clearly, it was a community-based initiative, right? I was trying to help one person.
Of course.
And then other friends wanted to get involved to help her, and I just created the vehicle for it. And so we've just built and expanded upon that. But the concept Tits Deep, it really does stem from the lifestyle and the passion that me and that best friend shared. Like, we were #1 POW buddies.
Yeah.
You know, no friends on a POW day. One of my favorite memories, it's not even one singular memory, but I would just FaceTime her at like annoyingly 7:15 in the morning. Even if we worked the night job the night before and taught the day before, you know how it is. Like, everyone has 2 or 3 jobs.
Right.
And you're so tired, but she would always answer, and I'd just be like, yo, dude, let's meet at this mountain at this time. And she would just be there.
And she would just show up.
And it's so rare to find friends that you can actually stick with on a POW day. And so, you know, I spent months and months and months not forcing, but just letting a term come to me that was going to be effective and relatable and something that I felt really good about campaigning for. And it kind of stems from losing my mom to breast cancer when I was 2 and feeling very alienated from the breast cancer community. I never felt like I could find a space within it. When I think of breast cancer, I think of the pink ribbon and just things that I personally wouldn't represent. Or maybe slogans, just things that just don't really align with who I am. And so when I had that light bulb moment, Tits Deep, it just made so much sense because it does signify powder days. And that was something that was like so spot on for me and Nidhi and like just powder hounds. And we were snowboard instructors, and it just, the phrase itself is the lifestyle, but then it has so much to do with mountain communities and skiing and snowboarding. And so I guess that's always been the root of, you know, Tits Deep for breast cancer.
Yeah. And I mean, and that phrase embodies even more than that. It embodies like the feeling and the joy and like the camaraderie and like the relying on her, you know, that she'll always be there kind of thing.
And there's just so much stoke around the phrase itself.
Totally. Yeah. Like, you know what that means, you know, and it's just like the best fucking day ever.
It's the best day ever.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I'm curious why you felt that, like that absence within the breast cancer community. Like, was it like a gatekeeping thing where you felt like on the outside, did you just not resonate with the symbolism and like the phrasing and stuff? Like, what do you think it was?
There's a lot of different factors. One is nobody really talks about it. So growing up, if someone asked, where's your mom? You know, like it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, where does your mom live? And then you tell the truth.
Yeah.
But it's not something that you're actively sharing. And if I'm not actively sharing, there's a lot of other people. If there's no platform where Tits Deep, people will come up all the time and share. And it's actually mind-blowing because we're in spaces where there's a lot of active, healthy young people.
Right.
And the amount of individuals who come up to us and share their relationship to breast cancer is unreal. And it really does validate the 1 in 8 statistic.
Yeah.
1 in 8 will be diagnosed in their lifetime. So I honestly didn't know anyone until Nadine got diagnosed in 2020. And then the conversation started rolling again. And then there's this one memory I have when I was 16 and I had some pocket change. You know, I was working, high school girl. And I pulled a $5 out of my wallet and I donated to whatever breast cancer org was tabling at the mall. And I said, yeah, I'm donating because I lost my mom when I was 2 to breast cancer. And both women were like well over 60, curly white hair. And they just looked at me like deer in the headlights. And that kind of has stuck with me ever since. And so there's not a lot of support for young women in the breast cancer community as it is. And so then you add in, you know, memories like that. And on top of it, no one's really talking about it. There really isn't a whole lot of places for you to go to find community.
Right. Well, and that's That's interesting. Like the lack of conversation surrounding it. Why do you think that is? Because it almost feels like, and I'm such an outsider to this, it almost feels like the opposite because you always see the pink ribbon. It's like Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but just because people are maybe like going through motions of that doesn't necessarily mean it's like the intentional conversation that's needed around the topic or just like the emotional support.
Yeah.
Like feeling like you belong and feeling like you can have a safe conversation about someone that you've lost or someone that struggled with breast cancer.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with grief. It's not an easy topic. And if there is no vehicle like Tits Deep for you to express what's happened, then is there room to bring it up if no one's asking?
Yeah, that's so true. And so your friend got diagnosed in 2020. And was that when you started handing out the stickers and spreading awareness within your own community, or what did that look like?
No, I didn't find out she was diagnosed for a few months. I found out through a different friend. And then when I did find out, that's when I kind of went to the drawing board on my own, was like, how do I help her? I don't really know how to help her aside from monetarily. And I know she's really struggling with her medical debt right now. And so that's when I just started brainstorming an effective way to campaign that I would feel good about and that would raise money. What's so interesting is I thought I would be done after selling 250 stickers.
Yeah.
I ordered 1 box of stickers, showed up to my door, started selling them exactly 4 years ago on February 21st. And I was like, sweet, what's 5 times 250? What is that, like 1,250?
Yeah.
And within 5 days, we sold out.
And you're like, what? I'm sure you didn't expect that.
Like literally showed up to the mountain, was teaching the local kids program and in my ski instructor jacket and the chest pocket and just selling them. Almost like it was like drugs. Like people,
yeah, you're like, hey.
Word got around after like the first week and was like, yo, like you got a sticker.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, what a cool feeling that must have been.
It was really cool. And I had some friends on the mountain who were instructors who really wanted to help raise the money. So they were also selling stickers. So we were able to like multiply our efforts. And then I was sharing it a lot on social. That's when I was really kind of pushing the advocacy work. I didn't realize it at the time, but yeah, I was becoming very vocal just to spread more awareness and help her the most.
And like you said, just like start the conversation that wasn't happening.
Yeah, I wasn't afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
I guess because I had my whole life to not talk about it, and I am a pretty outgoing person. And I'm so passionate, and this is something that I didn't realize that now I know I'm extremely passionate about. But the moment I realized that I had really struck gold was when we got an order from Australia, and the individual buying the stickers had no idea who me or my friend were.
I mean, what an insane moment. Something that started so like locally.
Yeah.
And so within your own group and within your own community, that must be an insane feeling. Something so small.
Yeah.
That means so much.
So I had a lot of late nights in between my 2 jobs as a ski bum, like till like 10 at night, literally hand licking envelopes.
And sending them in the mail.
I've upgraded since. I have the sticky back ones.
We all start there,
but,
sister. I was the same.
Hours at the table just fulfilling sticker orders.
Wow. So when did you make the decision to go online with that? When you were very vocal on social media, was it through your personal account?
Yeah, it was very natural. It was just, hey, this is what I'm doing. And it was just really pushing, raising money for Nadine. That's all it was. And I knew that social media had a reach. And if I did it there, people that I knew from different states would order, and they were. And it started to snowball. And, in 2 months, we raised $11,000 off of a $5 sticker.
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was
that's so
unexpected.
Powerful. I'm sure. And then when did you realize, was it then that you were like, I want to make this bigger?
It was kind of halfway through. So maybe like in the first month, I would wake up sometimes just buzzing, like a burst of energy inside of me and be like, oh my God, this is my calling.
Yeah.
Like it was so strong and I won't stop. And I haven't stopped. We have so much further to go. But I recognized that there was a need that wasn't being met. And a lot of people just felt compelled to share their experiences as they were buying the sticker. Like I all of a sudden became this point of contact for them to open up where I could recognize them, even though I was me and stickers. There was no entity yet.
But that was still like, you said like a lot of people don't ask.
Mhm.
That was like you
Them
asking.
reaching out.
Yeah, and almost being like, oh, I'm safe to say this now because it's like almost prompted in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's when I really wanted to start growing it into something where we could impact more than one individual.
And how did you go about that?
I just kind of have been figuring it out ever since, but I started with trucker hats.
Okay.
And socks. So I went the merch route. Had no idea I had a skill for it, to be honest. And meetups and events.
Okay.
That's been the natural progression. Things that I tend to enjoy and that I've, kind of honed in on that skill.
Right.
And kind of feeling out individuals who would be a good fit to help be ambassadors or board members. But a lot of it was me networking, showing the sticker, talking about it, even when Tits Deep wasn't relevant, because I'll talk about it to anybody at any time. We were set up at the farmer's market that first summer because we met someone at Telluride Yoga Fest. I was a volunteer and I was just networking with vendors, and I was like, oh, by the way, I do Tits Deep. And one of the vendors was like, well, I go to the Basalt Farmer's Market in the Roaring Fork Valley and I always have a spare table. You're welcome to set up. So that was kind of like,
no way.
phase 2.
Yeah, because that's a huge gateway. I mean, that's a big farmer's market.
Yeah, that's kind of like the very beginning stages of like, what do I do next?
And do you feel like when you named it Tits Deep, do you think that was when it took on a life of its own? Or do you think, I mean, I know obviously things were rolling before that, but I guess for you to have a name for it and have it like an entity, like, did that mean something different to you?
I think, yeah, the idea itself and then the sticker design, it was always going to be big and I just didn't know it.
Sure. You were like catching up to the idea almost. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like miles behind the actual idea. So in a way, it kind of sells itself. And I'm just proud that I, was able to be the one behind it. But yeah, it took, a lot of thought, a lot of time and intention on what direction we want to go. How do we want to go? Who do we want to serve? And what does that look like in terms of going from, a sole proprietorship to a nonprofit 501c3.
And what does that process look like, becoming a nonprofit?
You've got to submit an application. You've got to find board members. And I really held off until I fully trusted the people I was going to ask onto the board. And I can't say enough good things. We're like this really badass trio. They're super engaged. They all have skill sets that I don't have. And so together we're a powerhouse. It's nice to be able to confide in people from the inside because, yes, I do a lot of the work by myself, but I'm definitely more of a team player.
Yeah.
And I also kind of naturally seek outward validation. So it's really nice to know I can kind of lean on that group of women.
Yeah. And just ask them questions and get their opinions.
Yeah.
And so how big is the team now? Is it the three of you, or do you have anyone else helping you as well?
It's the 3 board members, I included. And then we've got a couple of ambassadors as well. Who actually happen to be medical professionals.
Oh, really? Do they also live in the Valley, or are they?
We have one in Denver. Haley, she's a genetic counselor. And board member. There's Lena. She's a local to Carbondale, and she just retired from a national cross-country skiing career. So she's back in Carbondale where she grew up. Then there's Caitlin, who also lives in Carbondale, and she's a pelvic physiotherapist.
Cool.
As well as Dr. Laura, who is an OBGYN out of Breckenridge.
Wow. So kind of all over the map.
Yeah.
I like that. And I think it's smart too to grow slowly and intentionally, especially with a mission that's so intimate and close to your heart. You don't want to add too many people too quickly and then it lose its magic or people not understand the core values.
Yeah.
Because that seems like it's so important with any business, but especially with yours. So becoming a nonprofit, you have to get the board members, fill out a bunch of paperwork. Is there any, is it a tough thing to get accepted to? Is it like a lengthy process or what does that look like?
It's very lengthy. You don't want to make any errors on the application because the IRS will send it back to you. And it can take months to years, especially with, backlogs in the government system since COVID. So it took us about 6 or 7 months to get our designation. And getting that letter in the mail felt really good because of how long I marinated on that decision. It really was a very thorough process.
I'm sure.
Over a year of really understanding.
Yeah, well, because I'm sure it's very technical. So what is the difference between not being a nonprofit and being a nonprofit? Like, I really don't know
One of the
anything about the
biggest
technicalities.
things is there's really no true ownership. So if ever we decided to dissolve it, the money has to be given to another 501c3.
Oh, interesting.
And there has to be a board, right? So, you're essentially divvying up the decision making. And the biggest thing is you can offer your donors tax receipts.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And you can allocate the funds the way you want.
Okay.
You don't have to like piggyback. Like if we were a nonprofit without the 501c3, we'd have to piggyback on a 501c3.
Okay.
And there was really no one out there doing what we want to accomplish. So it seemed like the best decision to go 501 so we could really do things the way that we want to do it.
So in what way do you feel like you've filled that gap for yourself? Or I'm sorry, but for like the community with breast cancer, with, raising awareness, with raising funds, how do you think you're doing it differently than other people in the space?
Honestly, I don't know, but it leaves room for future growth, which is really kind of what we're figuring out since we're such a small startup.
Yeah.
And we're still understanding how to raise funds on a larger scale. So it's really a big learning curve for us. So we're continuing to do what we know how to do while also learning and equipping ourselves for when we get to that point where we can kind of do things at an elevated level.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but that's how you grow. That's how you do things. So with breast cancer and raising awareness and having conversations, what do you think are some things that are misconceptions or that you wish people knew that they didn't, or common questions that you get?
I would say one of the biggest misconceptions is I'm young and I'm healthy, so I don't have to worry about breast cancer, or I don't have any family history, I'm good. We've been seeing a ton of women under 40 in the last few years.
Really?
That have been diagnosed. It's surreal. Check our Instagram DMs. And Nadine, she didn't have the gene mutation. She didn't have family history. And she was diagnosed with stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. Stage 3, there's only 4 stages. So it's super aggressive, larger tumors. And triple negative is incredibly hard to treat. And my mom, we didn't have family history. So I really think that understanding that there is risk and sitting with someone such as Haley, our board member and gene counselor, who can walk you through what those risks might be, is going to help each person navigate their health, their breast health, and know what measures to take, what to look for, and how to take action if they ever do get diagnosed. And the lack of resources, education, and awareness for people under 40 is so much so that a lot of us do get diagnosed at late stages where it is incredibly hard to treat or life-threatening.
Yeah. Because you didn't even know to like check for certain things because you're so much younger.
Or because the medical world says, oh, you're under 40, like your insurance won't cover this. Or we're going to make it really freaking hard to get your mammogram because of your age. So it could take months to get something that could be critical, or you could be dismissed when actually it's something very serious and that needs to be taken care of ASAP.
So you think that's still the current narrative in the medical community?
Yeah, we still see that and hear it a lot. There's a lot of progress to be made.
Yeah. I mean, I think with any kind of reproductive health with women or women's health in general, there's so much, lack of funding and allocations to further the research and the treatments and the awareness.
Yeah.
Like the funding just isn't there. So when you're donating your funds, are there certain things that you're trying to focus on with the money that you guys raise?
Yeah. So the mission is supporting young women's early detection treatment.
Okay.
We're still very much in the beginning phase of building out our grant program because we're such a new 501c3. But what we really hope to achieve is to offer financial resources to women under 40 who have the need for their mammogram, but there's that barrier of finance. And I think the more people that we can help get that early detection treatment to see what's going on with their breast health is going to make a big difference in the outcome of, hopefully saving more lives.
Well, and maybe getting more recognized by the medical community that like this is more common than we're treating it, like we need to prioritize testing earlier.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea that it was as common, and I have friends of friends who have got diagnosed with breast cancer. My roommate's uncle just got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
I mean, which I didn't even know men could get
They have breast tissue.
Yeah, which is insane. And I've never gotten a mammogram and probably should. I mean, I've done like the breast checks and all that in the shower, like you see on the little posters, but it definitely isn't talked about enough. I mean, even going into this podcast, I want to learn because I don't know enough about any of that, about the prevention, about the stats, and 1 in 8 women. That's insane.
Insane. You can line 8 of us up.
That's insane. Like, I mean, yeah, that gives me chills.
I mean, even the small Tits Deep team, one of them was diagnosed under 40.
Really? Wow. And your DMs, are they just like testimonials? Like, do you hear from
a lot of women
and...
they'll just open up, you know, like a lot of them, they say, hey, I really resonate with your community. I'm so glad you exist. This is what I'm going through. And this is what I love to do. So a lot of it is they are young and they don't have a lot of support around them. I'm not saying they don't have the support of friends or family, but more so in the breast cancer world, because all of a sudden they're young and they don't know anyone else and they're going to their treatment centers and everyone else is way older than them.
And that's so lonely.
And then, you know, they're skiers, snowboarders, hikers, mountain bikers. So then they immediately connect with that aspect of Tits Deep.
Well, and wanting to keep that ability to allow their bodies to do all those things and to stay strong for that. And you guys do events, you guys do meetups. Is that still something that is pretty much at the forefront of your company? I know you said that was a way that you grew at the start.
Yeah.
So
sure.
what kind of stuff are you doing? Like, do you do stuff in the summer, winter?
We do. We just had a women's intro to backcountry course
cool.
partnered with Aspen Expeditions, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And we have our 4-year anniversary party this Friday, the 21st of
Very
February.
Exciting.
With a local brewery, we're doing a special edition beer club where 5% of all sales will benefit our organization. We'll be at Boot Tan Fest in April.
We're going to ski naked together.
Woohoo! Anyone listening, please buy your ticket and come.
I'm so excited.
And then I'm shocked. Last summer, we did so many mountain bike related events.
Really?
I wasn't even planning on it. And like, they would just pop up here and there. So we went to Mountain Bike Oregon in near Eugene. And we went to a Venture Birds women's mini enduro in A Basin.
Cool.
We have our own, we call it Tits and Trails, and this was our 4th annual
women's
mountain bike meetup up in the Roaring Fork Valley. So we do a lot of stuff like that. They're usually very mountain bike snow oriented, and we like to integrate our what we call Talk Tits. It's our panel of experts. So myself, Dr. Laura, Haley, Caitlin, either storytelling and sharing on medical advice as well as FAQs.
Yeah. Wait.
FNQs.
Frequently asked questions.
Yeah. Frequently asked questions.
I had to take that too.
And speaking of, there was a lot of engagement at our last Tits and Trails.
Sick.
Where a couple of women really walked away feeling super equipped.
Okay.
Clueless, no idea, but family history. And one of them came to the Intro to Backcountry course earlier this month. And she said, Steph, I just wanted to tell you that because of Dr. Laura's FAQs and just sharing on medical advice at your Talk Tits, it actually gave me the knowledge to basically get what I needed at my last breast MRI. And I think without that, I wouldn't have succeeded. So
no way.
Things like that are big wins.
Yeah,
you know?
Huge wins. And I'm sure that there's, for every testimonial that you get or feedback that you get like that, there's 5 other women that like are silently doing that.
Yeah.
You know, that you don't hear from.
And who knows who she'll, pass that knowledge on to.
And are there questions that you guys get all the time at these events, or like FAQs, or is it kind of all across the map when you're doing these panels?
Yeah, I mean, different people have different questions. I can't really think of any common ones. A lot of them relate to insurance. But a lot of the women that come, and what I love about our community is that it is so inclusive and that's kind of the goal. Like, I want as many people to come and feel like they belong there, especially the ones who don't have family history and who are, well under 40, because they're the ones that aren't being spoken to. Yeah. And that could make a huge difference, if one of them ever does have to seek treatment.
Right. And having that community now that they can turn to and ask questions to. And I think it also is so important, like getting that confidence when you walk into the doctor, like knowing what to ask. Because sometimes, I mean, I walk into the doctor and I'm like, I just forget everything that I know. And I just like robotically do whatever they say and then you leave. But you need to be your own
Yeah.
advocate too. Especially
And
if they're not checking for those things that maybe they should be. Knowing to ask for that is probably really important and life-saving as well.
yeah, knowing what to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this is what I need, or just knowing what questions to ask to get what you need.
Are there any questions for anyone listening, myself included, to ask the next time they go to the doctor?
I think bringing up your family history is a big one.
Mhm.
And then asking, is my insurance going to cover my gene test? And if not, where can I get one that's going to fit my budget? And that can help your doctor understand what kind of treatment plan to put you on based on your family history. If you don't have family history, just, I guess, asking the basic questions of what are things I can do to understand my body better.
Right.
And maybe what times of month to look for any sort of, breast self-awareness and
Okay.
self-exams. And for me personally, I have what's called first degree family history. So it's one of your immediate parents, so my mom. And I started getting mammograms when I was 30. I just turned 35. And it's still been a learning curve. I thought I had it nailed this past August.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I was like, this is my 4th time. I'm going to crush. It's going to be so easy.
Yeah.
No.
In what way?
I actually got beat down the hardest of all the years. But the first time I called, I had no idea. So for anyone out there who's under 40, you actually need what's called a doctor's referral or a doctor's order sent to a diagnostic center.
Okay.
To actually even schedule your mammo.
Really? Okay.
So I went to my doctor. Then they sent the order via dinosaur fax. I don't know why they use fax machines still.
Yeah, that's insane that they still use that.
And prior to knowing that, I just straight up called the diagnostic center. I was like, hey, I want to schedule my mammogram. It's like scheduling like your teeth cleaning, right?
Yeah.
Think. And this chick answers and she's like, cool, you're scheduled. 5 minutes later, I get a call from another lady like, hey, we don't have your doctor's order. You can't schedule a mammogram.
You're like, what?
I'm like, okay. And she's like, you're only 30. Why do you need a mammogram?
Really?
And I just flat out was like, because my mom died. And it triggered me and I cried.
I'm sure.
It was so messed up and unnecessary.
What
Like,
an
why do
awful
people
thing
do
to
that?
say. Yeah.
That's not the first time I've experienced that. I experienced that this August too.
Yeah.
The same question in the same tone, different person.
Oh.
So I've learned a lot. I thought I mastered the art of scheduling my screenings.
Yeah.
And I even celebrated. Like, I walked out of my room and I told my husband, I was like, woo, it only took me 10 minutes. I'm scheduled. Let's go. And then I go back to my phone and I have 3 missed calls for the diagnostic center.
Oh, God.
And the voicemail says, we canceled your appointment. And that didn't make any sense because I went to my gyno. I got my order. They faxed the order.
And at this point, you've got this in the bag. So you're like, what's happening?
It was insane. It took me 2 hours of my life to like kind of recorrect. I actually researched other diagnostic centers in my network and went to another one. Because the one that canceled on me told me that I couldn't get a screening because I'm under 35. You need to have your doctor send a diagnostic order. The difference is a screening is preventative. That means there's no signs. You do it because of your family history and my high risk. I have a high lifetime risk. If you're over 21% based on your genes and family history, or even like, honestly, like your lineage, like Ashkenazi Jews have higher risk. That's like 50% that.
Yeah.
And
Jewish.
Latino is also higher. So that's also helped create that higher risk. But I was like, well, I don't need a diagnostic. One, insurance doesn't cover diagnostics. For me at least. They cover the preventative care. So that was gonna cost me out of pocket. 2, I didn't need it. 3, I called Haley, the gene counselor, was like, hey, this is what they're telling me. And she went online and she researched the Cancer Society, whatever's guidelines. And it says any woman with XYZ is entitled to XYZ. And Haley was like, yeah, they're not right. So I called them back and they said, that person's busy. Call us back. I'm like, no, I'm going to wait on the phone.
Yeah. So
they did get me on the phone with the manager of that center. And like, she basically lied and was like, oh yeah, we don't go by those guidelines. We don't go by the national guidelines.
How?
And so, yeah, I basically fired them without telling them and went to a different center that would see me. But how unnecessary is that?
And so unnecessary, and something that all you're trying to do is, take preventative measures and learn more about your body and be proactive versus catching it like at stage 3 or stage 4 when you're way more at risk.
or just not doing anything. I think if I didn't have Tits Deep and the accumulated years of knowledge and advocacy, I might not have even gotten my mammogram at 34.
Have you shared that experience like on socials?
Yes.
Have you gotten a lot of responses? Like, do other people? That sucks. I mean, it's incredible that you're sharing that and people can relate to that, but I just hate that that is a common experience.
Yeah, and I have a platform.
Yeah, totally.
There are a lot of women who don't and we don't know about that are going through this and probably hang up the phone and give up.
Yeah, which can make a huge difference in their future and their health.
Like just me being in the routine, I don't want to do it. Like it's annoying.
Totally.
But I'm doing it.
And I mean, calling a doctor and scheduling all that shit is annoying as is. To meet that much resistance and like have to prepare yourself for battle every time you get on the phone, you know? I mean,
what's going to happen next year?
Yeah.
I have to schedule. Apparently I'm 35 and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll update you.
Oh, geez. That's insane. Yeah, but I mean, I need to be more proactive about that, like ask more questions. And I don't think I have anything in my genetics. Actually, I'm pretty sure I don't, but still, like, I didn't even know that. Like, I figured if I didn't have it in my genetics, then I was like scot-free. You know, like I have no idea. So that's super interesting. And going into the doctor to ask those questions, because it's not like they're ever going to offer it up to me. I'm a measly 30 years old. They're going to be like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you, with Tits Deep, started Chest High. That came later. And that kind of plays into Tits Deep and into raising money. But talk about that a little bit and how that came to be.
I noticed a bit of a disconnect anytime I would go to the coast or go home. It's very much a mountain phrase, but if you don't ski and you don't snowboard and you don't live by a mountain town, it's kind of irrelevant, or maybe you have to explain it to people. And because I'm such a diehard surfer, I wanted to figure out how to build a bridge from the mountain communities to the surf communities, knowing that a lot of people that I know in the mountains love surfing or the idea of surfing and the lifestyle. So I was having breakfast with one of my closest girlfriends in Florida, and I was explaining kind of the idea I had for a campaign. And she just looks me in the eye and she goes, no, Steph, why not just Chest High? She said it twice in a row. It went totally over my head.
You're like, yeah.
She's like, no, Steph, like, why not just Chest High? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then maybe a few hours later, I got home and I was like, oh.
Sometimes it takes a second for it to
Chest
sink in.
High.
Yeah.
So I think I went and talked to my graphic designer friend. We made some designs, and it is the sister brand to Tits Deep. It's a for-profit apparel, surf-inspired apparel brand. And Chest High is when a wave comes up to your tits. Tits Deep is when the snow comes up to your tits. But in surfing, you say ankle high, knee high, thigh high. Snow, you say ankle deep, thigh deep, stomach deep, chest deep. So it's this perfect crossover.
It's like a bridge, yeah.
For every sale, we'll donate a percentage from Chest High back to Tits Deep.
Okay.
So it's just this really cool way to be in the surf communities. We're just starting out, so it'll be really exciting to see where we go. I used to host yoga surf adventure retreats.
Oh, cool.
Before Tits Deep blew up, and then I wanted to devote all my time to that. But it's something that I love, and I'm a yoga instructor, and I want to bring it back through Chest High.
Cool. Well, and then you're bringing together all of your passions and everything that you love so much.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And so what is your typical week, typical day, managing all of these things? I mean, do you find it overwhelming, or are you in such alignment that you're just like kind of cruising?
Yeah, it's rarely overwhelming. I'm so used to working. Like,
so many
to me,
jobs.
like, days off are just not, like, they're just working days. I've finally learned after a few years, just don't email brands, etc. on the weekends.
Yeah.
For Tits Deep, because no one's going to answer you. I used to work a lot on the weekends, and I'm like, okay, you can kind of chill.
That's one of my boundaries, really, is like, I have to just shut it off, or I'd go crazy on the weekends.
But yeah, I fit it in where I can, and it still doesn't feel like work. I just love it so much.
And do you still work other jobs as well, or is this your full-time job?
Yeah, we're still working on building the dream career.
Yeah. Well, what does that look like to you, the dream career?
Tits Deep, full-time.
Yeah.
Tits Deep, Chest High. Yeah.
So this is such a dumb question. With a nonprofit, how do you make a living off of that? Like, how are you able to make that your full-time job?
I'm still learning that. I have great resources from friends who work in nonprofits and have done so for years. But you essentially run it as a business, and you allocate funds to basically the administrative side.
Okay.
And then you also have your pillar. So there's pillars. Then you have the fundraising, the mission pillar.
Gotcha.
So it's just a matter of closely monitoring and understanding how to generate income and where to allocate it to.
Gotcha. And making sure that you're still donating to the pillars. Well, is there like a limit for the amount of people that you can pay? Like, is it all volunteer work? Like, what does that look like?
We're still not there yet, but it'll just depend on the amount coming in would tell us what we could afford to pay out to individuals. So it's been volunteer the last 4 years.
So, but it is possible at some point that could be
like Protect Our Winners.
Right.
They're crushing it. And they have a huge team.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Of like salary paid employees, but they also have their pillar that is purely for funding their mission.
Right. Gotcha. I mean, I knew it was possible. I just wasn't sure how. So what other jobs do you do in conjunction with all of this?
So
I don't know how the hell you find the time.
Just over a year ago, I got into becoming an insurance broker.
Oh, cool.
So I help individuals and small businesses with health insurance. And then I also work on like the financial side of like life insurance and helping people wealth build and protect their mortgages. It's actually really fascinating. And I want to figure out how to help people in the Tits Deep community now that I know a lot more about health care.
Because what did you study when you were in school?
Anthropology.
Oh,
very unrelated.
So you're totally using your major. I studied rehab disability studies in Spanish, so I'm literally not doing anything with my majors either. I'm like, that was just a party 4 years, networking for 4 years, you know?
That was me too.
Yeah.
How many hours a week can I serve?
No, literally. That was me, but it was just drinking. Unfortunately, I didn't have a hobby back then. But now I'm reformed. But that's really cool. And it's a cool way to, pour it back into the business at some point, like arming yourself with even more knowledge to help people. Because what were you doing before that? You said you just started a year ago.
Yeah, snowboard instructing.
Oh yeah,
ski
you said
bum
that.
life.
Yeah,
working at a restaurant.
Okay, cool. Which restaurant?
All over the valley.
Okay, nice. Not just in Carbondale, just like all over.
Yeah, all over.
Nice. I'm sure you meet a lot of people through that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like? I mean, I know you said you kind of like to do your own thing, like when you go to the grocery store and you run into people. Do you think running Tits Deep has kind of grown your own community? Like, would you consider yourself more introverted or extroverted?
One of my best friends calls me the most extroverted introvert she knows.
Extroverted introvert, because you like being around people, but you like being by yourself?
I'm super shy, like by nature. Like I was so shy in grade school. Like I literally ate lunch alone in high school because I had no friends.
No
it was
way.
Miserable. Yeah, like it sucked. So that's why I'm so hyper aware of people around me and why I go out on a limb to be so inclusive and really see people. So I definitely like to do things on my own. Like if I can do whatever outdoor activity it is for the day on my own, super happy to, and then I can just cruise the whole rest of the day on my own. If I'm not and I'm indoors, I get restless and I'll need to like call somebody.
Yeah.
So I love my people very hard and I'm very communicative. Like I'm the person that like texts back immediately and like loves to pick up the phone and call the person that is hopefully going to answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, being around town, I do love when I bump into people because it's just a testament to the community that you build.
Yeah, it's a reflection. But you also like doing things alone. I'm either there because there is like an extroverted introvert or introverted extrovert. I can't remember which one it is because technically what it is you get more energy from being around people or you get more energy from being by yourself. But I kind of get it from both. And I'm not like, oh, like, I don't know, you can't define me, I'm so different. But genuinely, like sometimes I need to recharge totally alone. And I love doing things by myself. But I think I only like doing things by myself when it feels like my choice. Like there's been times in my life, because I've been single for the majority of my life, more than I've been in relationships, where it's felt like forced alone time. And then that's like when the loneliness creeps in, I think, because I was always such an extrovert growing up. But I also get so much energy from being around people and like talking to people and having conversations.
I do too. I have noticed though lately, I do need more alone time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love the togetherness, but then I really need to create a boundary of when I need my alone time.
Sure. I can relate to that. I think it comes with age. I'm
a grandma.
Oh, I mean, I preferably, if I'm in bed by 8:30 with a book, I'm so happy. That's like my dream. And it's funny because I live with 5 girls. And so our house is like overstimulation city. Yeah. But I kind of love it. Like I don't wish I lived by myself because it's such a unique experience getting to live with a bunch of girls on a mountain. Like can't beat that. But I'm definitely the one in the house that needs the most alone time. Like after, like we'll all cook dinner together and like have dinner. And they like to play cards and stuff. And I'll just kind of like Irish goodbye to my room to go read because I'm like, I've had enough for the day. Like I think I just need to go. And they just like know that because also my job is so social. Like I'm constantly DMing people back and like recording videos of myself and interacting with people all day or recording podcasts that at the end of it all, I'm like, okay, I got my fix. Like, I think I just want to go read a book now or like journal or something. But those things are definitely what keeps me sane in all of it. And I'm sure you too, like, no 2 days are probably exactly the same with how fast you're growing and growing to brands and becoming a nonprofit and doing all of your pop-ups and events, and you're traveling. You're literally headed to New Zealand next week. So are there any things like rituals or practices in the morning, at nighttime, or just in your day-to-day that kind of keep you grounded or that you like have to do to feel good?
Yeah, I going back to what you were saying, like routine has become a priority for me, and I'm not super anal about it. But whereas before, when I was a little younger, I was very like, yeah, I was dedicated to certain things, but I'd be okay if I was a bit ungrounded. Whereas now it just kind of derails me.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
I'm a tea drinker, and so I love making my tea in the morning. And then when it's not like rushing out to beat gnarly traffic for a POW day, then I just finished a book that had daily affirmations for the whole year. So I would sit down with that. But yeah, just like sitting, meditating, praying, reflecting is something that I do like to do regularly. And then physical fitness, if I can fit it in the day, which usually it's a high priority, it's become like a muscle memory for me.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Like before I had to like really build that muscle. Now it's like something's wrong if I don't do that.
Yeah.
And so that looks a little different each day. It really conditions dependent. If it's a powder day, I am devoted to that. I was texting a friend yesterday. I was like basically saying that my adulting just stops on powder days.
Yeah. Well, my boyfriend lives in Alabama and he always laughs because I'll be like so stressed about work and like bitching about it. And he was already asleep, and I texted him a picture because we have a hot tub in our backyard, and we use that as our like snowdometer because we can see how much snow. And we had already like gone in the hot tub that night, and it had already snowed like 5 inches since. And I texted him because I was bitching about being so stressed. And I was like, so I think I'm going to wake up at 5 tomorrow so that I can work for 2 hours because I want to get first chair.
Awesome.
Like, I bet everything just goes out the window. And I've always said that, like, I would be way richer money-wise, like probably have a more successful business if I wasn't obsessed with skiing or like going on that camping trip or, whatever it is, being outside. But I think success looks so different to so many different people. And for me, I think it's still, even when it stresses me out and maybe I lose a little sleep over it, maintaining the things that I love that bring that like joy back into my life, like skiing on a powder day, like being on a lift and hearing grown men be like, wow, yeah. So going down, like there's nothing better. It's unexplainable.
Yeah, so that is such an important part of my balance.
Yeah.
The different activities I do, wellness, prioritizing my health. And like you just said, my younger brother 4 years ago said, Steph, if you treated a business the way you treated surfing, you'd be wildly successful. Still haven't figured that out yet.
You're like, how do I trick my brain?
Killer surf sessions.
How do I trick my brain into thinking this is surfing?
I don't know. You tell me when you crack the code.
Yeah. Same here. I definitely could do a little better in that department, but that's what makes life so fun. And that's why we live where we live, is so we can prioritize doing stuff like that. And then, somehow turn it into a career, which is kind of what you're doing, especially with all the meetups and the community events. It sounds like you're pulling everything from your life, your mom passing away when she was younger and the inability to have those conversations, and then being alone for a lot of your adolescent years and like sitting at lunch by yourself. Like you're starting conversations, you're advocating, and you're creating a place for everyone at the table. I mean, and then you're incorporating the outdoors too. I mean, it's like you've married every single thing that's important to you into Tits Deep, which is so beautiful.
I love that perspective.
Just from the outside looking in, like you've just gradually been building this, it sounds like, your whole life, from that little voice in your head that told you when you were 16 to move to Aspen. Yeah. And thank you, family friend, for making you go. But no, that's really cool. And I'm excited to see where you take it. And you mentioned earlier, you're like, this is just the beginning. There's so much more we want to do. So do you have anything at the forefront of your mind when you think about the future, like dreams that you have for Tits Deep?
It's a vision coming together. I want to see us expand into other mountain towns or cities. like really dial in the chapter program.
Mm.
I haven't quite figured out how that looks like yet, but we've seen lots of interest beyond Colorado.
Oh, so like a chapter, is it like a chapter in different places?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
We've got one in Tahoe.
Oh, nice.
They've started to really take their initiative and collab with another women's mountain bike and ski group called Dames of Dirt.
Cool.
They're actually working on a Women's International Day event. I don't know if it's going to fall on the exact day or that weekend, but it's going to be an uphilling event fundraiser. And they've already got sponsors. Like, they are doing an impressive job. Cool. I'm really proud of the work they're doing. And Tahoe is a vibe for Tits Deep, so I really see that being like our next biggest place. And then Bozeman has a ton of opportunity. Okay. I just spoke to a really special younger woman whose mom's going through breast cancer, and she lives in Bozeman, and she's a super, super stoked skier. And then, I would love for a lot of the U.S. to recognize Tits Deep. We get a ton of orders from our online store all across. We even had one in Alaska and one to Prince Edward Island in the last month.
Wow.
Just insane.
I mean, that's some wide reach.
I was flattered.
Yeah, that's huge.
And then, like getting to that point where I could leave my other jobs.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
But one of the shorter term visions, which for 3.5 years ago was a big dream, was to produce a short film. Okay. And we just wrapped up our second week of filming last Thursday.
No way!
And it was surreal. It really was one of the best, most special weeks of my life. So I can't wait for everyone to see it. But we've kind of been keeping it under the radar.
That is so sick. Do you know when it's going to come out?
No. It's going to be a long post-production process.
Sure.
But we have a timeline. Everyone involved is next level. I hold them in such high regard. Yeah. And it took a lot of planning, and we're still figuring out the fundraising. That part's been the most challenging to make it all happen. But our vision is to go on film tour next year to the Mountain and Outdoor Film Fest.
That's what I was going to ask. If
have
you guys
our
are
own
going to do
screenings,
have
panels. It's going to be a really, really special film.
Well, and associating that with the panels you were talking about, the TikToks and stuff, that's just going to quadruple your reach to bring people in for a film like that. Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah, and it's special because so much of it has to do with the story of Nadine and our best friendship, and kind of the evolution of Tits Deep. Right. So it shares it all. Right. It's super intimate.
Yeah. No, that's the most intimate story of all. That's beautiful, and the culmination of why you started. Wow. Okay, well, I'm going to be at the premiere.
Please.
Of course. Yeah, I will absolutely make it happen. Well, this is so cool and such an inspiring conversation, and I love what you're doing and getting to see it up close and just watch you talk about it and hear your story and so many others. You were doing incredible, incredible work and filling a gap that didn't exist, which is so beautiful. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On all of that. I'm so excited to see where you go.
Me too.
But yeah, this has been so incredible. I hope I'm not speaking for you when I say anyone listening, if they have any follow-up questions, to reach out.
Please, yeah.
You seem very open and willing to any and all DMs. And do you want to leave your handles for everything so everyone knows where to find you and your website and all that?
Yeah, you can always feel free to DM us on Instagram at titsdeep for breast cancer, and that's FOR. And then our sister brand is at Chest High Co. And then if you just wanted to get to know me on the side, it's at Steffi, STEPHY, SURFS, SURFS.
Of course. That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for everything. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will talk to you guys soon. See ya. All right, and that is a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Definitely give Steph a follow on all the things, and make sure you support her, not one, but 2 brands. Hopefully we'll be doing a little collaboration at some point soon. We're already scheming, and I hope you guys enjoyed and got as much out of the conversation as I did. You can find us at Raw Intentions Podcast on Instagram and listen anywhere you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube if you want to watch us via video. If you like what you heard, we've got tons of episodes. We've been doing this for a while now, every single Thursday. So definitely listen back and keep following along for what's to come. And if you love us as much as we love you, I would die if you would leave us a little rating and review. Whoa, that rhymed. But it would mean so much as we continue to grow and reach larger audiences. So that's all I have for y'all this week. I will talk to you next Thursday. Have a fabulous weekend and see you next time. Bye.